The girl who couldn't walk in a giant golden palace on the floating city of Velthar Prime lived a girl who could not walk. Her name was Princess Elira. She was the only daughter of Emperor Kiradan, the ruler of the Altheron Empire. Elira had long silver hair, soft violet skin, and bright teal eyes that often stared out the palace window watching the stars. But what people noticed most about her was her wheelchair. 10 years ago, when she was just 12, Elira was in a shuttle crash. Her spinal cord was damaged. Since then, she had never taken a single step again. And even though the galaxy had powerful healing tech, clones, regrowth, cells and neural link machines, her father refused to let her use any of them. The gods made you this way now, he said. Changing that would be unnatural. But Elira didn't believe that. She didn't think it was about the gods. It was about power and shame. If the emperor's daughter was weak, people would question his rule. So, they locked her in the upper floors of the palace, far away from public eyes. A team of caretakers and servants looked after her, but none dared speak of what Elira truly felt. She was lonely, she was angry, and deep inside, she dreamed of walking, of running, of being free. One cloudy day, a group of humans arrived at the palace. They were engineers from Earth, sent to fix the old palace. Energy core. The Empire had no choice. They needed Earth's help for certain tech. Humans were still seen as strange in Altheron society, but useful. Among them was a quiet, brown-haired man named Dane Corrin. Dane was not like the others. He didn't try to impress the nobles. He didn't bow deeply or fake smiles. He just worked. 1.
Evening, while checking the palace elevator systems, Dane took a wrong turn and ended up at Elira's chamber door. She opened it herself. Their eyes met.
His widened when he saw her in the wheelchair. Her royal badge was visible, but so was her boredom. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. "I got lost," Dane replied calmly. "Didn't expect to meet royalty today." Instead of leaving, he smiled gently and asked, "Need help with anything?" Elira blinked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not since the accident. She said softly, "Can you fix legs?" Dane didn't laugh. He just knelt beside her wheelchair and said, "Maybe if you let me try." In the days that followed, Dane kept finding reasons to pass by her chamber. Sometimes he brought little gadgets or drawings. Other times, just conversation. He told her about Earth, how humans fixed broken bodies, how no one was left behind. He showed her videos of people with robotic arms and legs dancing, running, even flying. Elira watched those videos with wide eyes and trembling hands. "It's real?" she asked. "Very real," Dane said. "Could I have that?" Dane looked around the room. The walls had cameras. The guards were always nearby. "I think you should have that," he whispered. That night, Elira cried alone for the first time in years, not because she was sad, but because for the first time, she had hope. Hope had a name now, and it was human. Meanwhile, one of the royal guards noticed Dane visiting Elira's floor too often. He told the advisor told the emperor, but nothing was done yet. They didn't believe a simple human could cause any trouble. But Dane wasn't just a simple human, he had a past and secrets. He had joined this mission not just to fix a palace, but to change the galaxy, and it would start with the girl who couldn't walk. The next time Dane returned to Princess Elira's floor, it wasn't by accident. He timed it perfectly, right after the guards changed shifts, when the cameras were on maintenance cycle. No one noticed him. Stepped through the quiet golden hallway. He knocked once on her chamber door. No answer. He knocked again. Suddenly, the door opened halfway. Elira sat in her chair, eyes sharp. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Dane didn't move. "I know, but I brought something. I think you'll want to see it." He pulled a small black cube from his coat. With a flick of his finger, a blue light flickered. A hologram opened between them, a three-dimensional design of robotic legs, custom-shaped for Elira's body. Her mouth opened slightly. She looked at him with disbelief. "Is this for me?" Dane nodded. Earth tech. Fast, silent, fully integrated with the brain's signals. You'll walk, run, even jump. Are you mad? She hissed, glancing toward the hallway. This tech is banned here. If they catch you with it, then I vanish. No one will. Find the cube. But if you want it, Elira, we start tonight. For the first time in her life, Elira invited someone into her private chamber. Not a servant, not a doctor, a human rebel. Dane looked around the room. It was beautiful, but lonely, like a golden prison. He pulled out a small metal band from his bag. This is a nerve reader. It'll scan your spinal cord and tell me what damage we're dealing with. Elira hesitated. I won't touch you, Dane said softly. Place it on your back when you're ready. She looked at him. He didn't treat her like glass, or like royalty, just a person. She turned her chair and lifted the edge of her royal robe, placing the reader at the base of her spine. It blinked green. Dane checked the results. Your nerves aren't dead, he said in awe. They're just blocked. I can reroute them. What does that mean? It means someone could have fixed you years ago. Elira stared at the floor. Her hands clenched the armrests of her chair. He lied to me. My father. All this time. Dane placed the tools back in his bag. You don't need to decide now, he said. But if you say yes, you must follow one rule. She looked up. No one must know. That night, Elira sat alone, replaying everything in her mind. She hadn't felt this nervous in years. But also, she hadn't felt this alive. The next evening, she sent a signal through her datapad. 3 blinking lights. Dane saw it. It was time. In a dark maintenance chamber far below the palace, Dane set up his secret. Workshop old crates, broken wiring, dusty parts, and in the center, a glowing table, the start of Elira's new legs. Every night for 1 hour, Elira sneaked down through hidden passageways. She used her floating wheelchair to glide through ancient tunnels forgotten by most. Dane was always waiting. They talked about bones, nerves, muscles. Dane showed her how the robotic legs would respond to her thoughts, how her brain would command them like her real ones. She practiced moving her fingers, then her toes, imagining the same signals traveling through the legs she didn't have yet. And then, they started building. As days passed, Elira changed. She smiled more. She asked more questions. She even started laughing, real laughter, not the fake royal kind. One night she asked him, "Why are you helping me?" Dane didn't answer at first. He just looked at her. When I was young, my sister had no legs. Earth gave her new ones. But on a colony world ruled by aliens, they were taken from her, because they called it unholy tech. Elira's eyes widened. She died waiting for justice, Dane said quietly. Helping you. It feels like I'm fixing something. For her, Elira placed her hand gently on his. I won't let your kindness be forgotten. But someone had noticed. A royal cleaner passed by Elira's door 3 times this week and never saw her inside at night. Another servant noticed Dane accessing lower chambers at odd hours and deep inside the palace. The Emperor's advisor began to investigate. Security was increased. Cameras were upgraded. The game was no longer safe. Back in the secret lab, Dane handed Elira a glowing helmet. This is the neural sync tester. When you wear it and you'll feel the legs. She hesitated, but only for a second. She placed it on her head. A sharp light blinked, and suddenly her eyes widened. I can feel them, she whispered. I don't see them, but I feel them. Her hands trembled with joy. Dane looked at her, smiling. You're halfway there. But outside the chamber, a silent red light blinked over a hidden camera lens. Someone was watching them, and they were no longer safe. The room was silent, except for the quiet hum of energy tools and the soft click of metal against metal. Dane stood over a long table in the hidden maintenance chamber beneath the palace. Sparks danced in the dim air as he worked on the final core joint of Elira's robotic leg frame. The workshop smelled of ion-burnt metal and oil, but to Dane, it was the smell of freedom. And to Elira, it was the smell of hope. Tonight was different. Elira had come not as a nervous princess, but as someone filled with fire. She wore dark clothes and had covered her hair. She looked less like royalty and more like a rebel. "Is it ready?" she asked, wheeling herself next to him. Dane didn't look up. "It's more than ready, but there's something you need to see first." He turned and tapped a control pad. A blue hologram blinked to life between them. It wasn't just her legs. It was the entire palace structure. Every hallway, elevator, chamber, and underground tunnel, all mapped out. Elira gasped. "How did you get this?" "I've been scanning the palace systems while working as an engineer," Dane said. "But that's not all." He pressed another button. Dozens of red markers appeared across the map. "Those are weak points," he said. "Places where systems fail, guards don't check, or walls are hollow. Escape routes, power sources, blind spots." Elira turned slowly toward him. "This isn't just about legs anymore, is it?" Dane looked her straight in the eyes. "No, it's about breaking the cage you live in, and maybe helping others break theirs too." He then showed her something, even more dangerous, a sealed black data chip. He called it Project Spark. Inside, it were thousands of files, banned medical blueprints, body-enhancing cybernetics, prosthetics designs from Earth and other free worlds. "This chip holds the tech your empire burned," Dane explained. "They call it illegal, I call it life." Elira touched the chip gently. "Why me? Why give it to me?" "Because," Dane whispered, "you're not just a girl in a wheelchair. You're the key to changing everything. If the people see you walk, after 10 years, they'll start to question the lies." Her breath caught, but just then, boom, a loud noise echoed from far above. The ground shook. The palace alarm didn't go off, but both of them froze. "Was that?" Elira asked. Dane checked his wrist device. "Someone's trying to scan this area. We have to move fast." They worked without speaking now. Elira slowly climbed from her wheelchair to a padded frame that supported her weight. Dane gently attached the robotic frame around her legs. The cold steel pressed against her skin and she winced but didn't complain. "These are just test limbs," Dane explained. "Not fully powered, but once we link them with your brain," he fitted a neural band around her head, "you'll command them like your own muscles." He tapped the device. A beep sounded. Elira's eyes opened wide. I can feel my legs," she said, her voice shaking. "Try to move them," Dane said. She closed her eyes and focused. 1 second. 2. Her right leg twitched. She gasped. Then, her left leg moved slightly forward. She grabbed his hand, tears in her eyes. "It's working, it's really working." But outside the chamber, a pair of boots stopped at a sealed door. A palace technician frowned at a strange reading on his scanner. He raised his comm. "Sector 9 showing abnormal energy. Usage. Possible hidden terminal below Chamber 14. Should I report it to the chief?" Back in the shadows, another figure watched him. The technician didn't see the silent dart fly toward his neck. He collapsed. The shadowy figure grabbed the comm device and crushed it, then disappeared into the darkness. Inside, Elira stood, wobbling, but standing. Dane quickly helped her balance. "I'm taller than I remember," she laughed softly. "You'll get used to it," Dane smiled. "And soon you'll do more than just stand." She took one shaky step forward, then another, then collapsed into his arms. They both laughed, but neither noticed the small red dot blinking on a pipe above them, a hidden camera, just activated by an unknown hand. Later that night, Elira sat in her royal chamber, the robotic limbs detached and hidden again. She stared out the window at the stars she had always watched but never touched. But tonight, they didn't feel so far away. She whispered to herself, "Let them try to stop me now, But somewhere in the palace, someone was already preparing to do just that, and they weren't coming to talk. Rain poured over Velthar Prime that morning. Thick clouds covered the skies, casting shadows over the gleaming towers of the Empire's capital. But inside the palace, the halls were lit with golden lights and red carpets, welcoming nobles for the Founders' Day celebration, the most important event of the year. Princess Elira hadn't been seen in public for nearly a decade. Today, that would change. Elira sat quietly in her chamber, staring at her reflection. Her royal dress shimmered with silver and blue threads, and her hair was styled in a long braid that fell over her shoulder. But it wasn't the dress or her face she focused on. It was her legs. Beneath the dress, they were no longer lifeless. Dane's robotic limbs, now fully installed and synced with her brain, were hidden under layers of soft synthetic skin. They looked real. They felt real. She had practiced walking all night in the hidden tunnels, falling, getting up, walking again. Now she was ready, but she was terrified. "If I do this," she whispered, "there's no turning back." A knock came at the door. "Princess, it's time." Elira took a deep breath, and then she stood up. Downstairs, the palace grand hall was filled with high-born aliens, military leaders, and foreign guests. The emperor stood on a raised platform, tall and cold, wearing his ceremonial armor. He smiled to the crowd, but not with warmth. He had forbidden Elira from attending. He thought she was still sick in her room. He had no idea what was coming. The music changed, trumpets sounded, and then silence. All heads turned as the grand doors slowly opened, and there she was, Princess Elira, standing, walking, one step at a time, slowly, carefully, but confidently. She walked into the hall without support, without wheels. Her people gasped. Eyes widened, mouths opened, some even clapped in shock. But the emperor's smile dropped like a broken mask. He stepped forward, voice cold. "What is the meaning of this?" Elira didn't answer him. She turned to the crowd and spoke clearly. "For 10 years I was told I'd never walk again. I was told healing was forbidden. I was told I must accept my fate." She paused. "But I don't believe in fate controlled by fear. I believe in choice. I believe in progress." She took another step. "I walked today not because of my blood, not because of your rules, but because a human gave me what my own empire would not. Freedom." The hall erupted in murmurs. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered frantically. The emperor's eyes narrowed. "Who helped you?" he demanded. Elira smiled faintly. "Someone with more heart than your entire council." Suddenly, guards rushed in. They grabbed her arms. Her legs sparked slightly under the pressure. The emperor raised his hand. "Tear those machines from her body." "No!" Elira screamed. But the guards didn't hesitate. They ripped at her dress, revealing the metallic joints underneath. Sparks flew as they yanked the neural bands off her neck. She screamed in pain. One leg collapsed. She fell to the floor. The crowd gasped. Some cried out. A few even turned away in disgust. The emperor looked around, then shouted, "Let this be a lesson. We do not corrupt our blood with alien filth." But behind the curtain, someone moved. Dane. He had entered the hall wearing the uniform of a royal technician. He had seen everything. And now, he was done hiding. Later that evening, the royal media tried to erase the footage. They deleted files. They shut down cameras. They silenced witnesses. But it was too late. Someone had uploaded Elira's speech and her walk to the galactic net. Within hours, the video had spread to every colony, station, and moon. People watched her stand. People watched her fall. And people wept. In secret hospitals, disabled girls whispered her name. In rebel bases, human engineers raised their fists. In noble homes, children asked their parents, "Why can't we walk like her?" The spark had been lit, and no one, Not even the Emperor could stop it now. Far below the palace, in the deepest maintenance tunnels, Dane carried Elira's unconscious body. Her legs were damaged. Her spirit was shaken. But her voice was stronger than ever. Dane looked down at her and whispered, "You stood today. Tomorrow we rise." It had been 3 days since Elira walked before the Empire. 3 days since the Emperor ordered her dragged off the stage. 3 days since the world saw everything. Now the palace halls were quiet, not with peace, but with tension. The Emperor had called for a closed session in the royal throne room. No reporters, no citizens. Only the royal family, military commanders, and the High Council. They said it was a disciplinary hearing. But Elira knew the truth. It was an execution in disguise. She sat on a cold metal bench, robotic legs still broken and disconnected. Her once glorious dress was replaced with a plain gray robe. Guards stood on each side, weapons in hand. A bruised cut lined her jaw, but her eyes remained defiant. The door creaked open. Dane was dragged in, hands cuffed behind his back, blood on his shirt. They had captured him after he helped her escape. The Emperor sat on the throne above them, eyes hard, hands clasped. "You," he said to Elira, "have betrayed your blood, your name, and your empire." She didn't flinch. "No. I just stopped being your prisoner." The Emperor slammed his fist on the armrest. "You brought a human criminal into the palace. You corrupted yourself with his lies. You spread rebellion among the people." One of the High Counselors stood. "The net feeds are out of control. Citizens across the outer colonies are protesting. Some are copying the human tech. This cannot continue." The Emperor's voice was like steel. "Then we end it, here and now." He pointed at Dane. "Execution." Elira stood up, without legs, without help. She stood up with pure will. "You want to kill him because he did what none of you dared? He gave me freedom. He gave your people hope. Do it then. Kill him in front of your court. Let the galaxy see what kind of father you really are." The room fell silent. A few counselors looked away. One soldier near the door hesitated, his hands trembling. The Emperor stood. Slowly, deliberately, he walked toward Dane, pulling out a ceremonial blade from his belt, etched with the royal crest. He raised it. "This is your final gift, Elira," he said coldly. "You may watch your savior die." Suddenly, boom, the throne room doors burst open. A shockwave rolled across the chamber as smoke grenades filled the air. Cries echoed. Guards shouted. From the fog, figures in black and blue armor stormed in. Human rebels with pulse rifles, light armor, and high-tech visors. "Protect the target," a voice shouted. Blasts fired, walls sparked. The royal guards responded, but they were too slow. The rebels moved like ghosts, disabling soldiers, grabbing Dane, shielding Elira. The Emperor pulled a weapon, but one of the human rebels shot it out of his hand. He screamed in rage, but the humans didn't kill him. They ignored him. They were here for Elira. A female rebel kneeled beside the princess. "Ma'am, can you move?" "Not without my legs," Elira said. The woman smiled. "Then let's get them back." She handed Elira a small device. A compact advanced neural booster, far more advanced than Dane's first version. Elira strapped it to the back of her neck. It hummed softly. The robotic limbs clicked. Her toes twitched. Then her legs powered. On she stood, and this time, she walked forward without hesitation. She looked up at her father. "You tried to keep me down, but now the whole galaxy knows I can rise." The Emperor snarled. "You are no daughter of mine." "No," Elira said. "I'm something far more dangerous. I'm free." She turned to the rebels. "Take me to the people." As the throne room burned behind them, the rebels escaped with Elira and Dane into a stealth shuttle hovering outside the window. The human pilot nodded as they boarded. "Transmissions live. All systems go." "What transmission?" Elira asked. The pilot grinned. "You didn't think we'd leave quietly, did you?" He tapped a button. Across thousands of planets, across data screens, terminals, and hollow projectors, a live feed from inside the throne room began to play. Millions watched the Emperor raise his blade. Millions watched Elira stand. Millions watched humans save her, without firing a single deadly shot. Back in the throne room, the Emperor stared at the broken door, breathing heavily. One of his generals stepped forward. "Sir, the people are turning. Even within the palace, protests are rising. Systems are failing." The Emperor's hands trembled. He had ruled with fear. But now, they had seen the truth. And the truth was walking toward them on legs they were told should never exist. Rain lashed the glass canopy of the escape shuttle as it raced through the clouds, carrying Princess Elira, Dane, and the rebel team away from the burning palace. No one spoke at first. Elira sat near the window. Legs, powered by Earth's finest neural tech, hands clenched tightly. Her eyes stared into the storm. But her mind was clear. This wasn't just an escape. This was a beginning. Below them, all across the Empire, something strange was happening. On moon colonies, holograms of Elira's escape were being projected onto buildings. On mining stations, workers threw down their tools and marched in silence, their arms raised in tribute. In slums and starports, people gathered in secret and whispered a single word. She walked. The rebels took Elira to an old decommissioned station orbiting the shattered planet of Kalenus, a place forgotten by the Empire. There, humans and aliens worked side by side. Doctors, mechanics, freedom fighters. They called the place Spark Core. When Elira stepped off the shuttle ramp, hundreds stood and stared. Many bowed, some saluted, a few even cried. One child with cybernetic arms walked up to her, eyes wide. "You're real," he whispered. She smiled and kneeled. "So are you." Inside the main chamber, Dane showed her the control hub. "This is where we've been building the future," he said. Quietly, secretly, but after what happened in the throne room. He pointed to a screen. Thousands of blinking lights. Every light is a new supporter. From every system. Your voice woke them up. Elira stared at the screen. She had once believed she was forgotten. Now entire worlds were calling her name. But hope always invites danger. Back on Velthar Prime, the Emperor watched the chaos grow. Cities rioted. Citizens questioned the laws. Some guards laid down weapons, others disappeared entirely. He ordered a full media blackout. But the data feeds were already corrupted. Human encryption had spread like wildfire. And worst of all, a secret message was sent from inside the palace. A traitor had switched sides. Back at Spark Core, Elira was preparing for the impossible. "I'm going back," she said. Everyone turned. "You barely escaped alive," Dane said. "The Empire wants you dead." "Exactly," Elira replied. "So I'm going to show them I'm not afraid." She stepped forward. "I won't be another princess hiding behind rebels. I'll lead them." Dane frowned. "We don't have an army," she smiled. "Then let's give them a reason to join one." They began uploading something Dane had hidden for years, the Spark Codex, a digital archive of outlawed medical and cybernetic tech from every corner of the galaxy. They didn't just talk about freedom, they shared the tools to build it. Prosthetic, limbs, neural readers, gene repair devices. Entire factories began printing parts for free. Stations turned into healing centers. Engineers became heroes. In days, what was once Dane's private rebellion became a movement. They called it Project. Rise, and its symbol was a girl who walked when she wasn't supposed to. Then came the message, a scrambled signal from deep space. The voice was rough, broken, but clear. "Elira, we have your mother." The room went silent. Elira's heart nearly stopped. "My mother died in the crash." "No," the voice said. "She survived. The Emperor kept her hidden. Deep in Facility Virex. He lied. To control you." The signal cut out. That night, Elira sat alone, staring at her reflection. Not the broken girl from before, not the caged princess, but a leader, A symbol, a daughter, and a spark about to become a flame. She whispered, "You locked her away. To control me. You took my legs to break me, but I'm still standing." She pressed a button on her communicator. "Dane, wake the team. We're going to Virex." As the rebel base came alive with orders and countdowns, ships began warming up. This time they weren't running. They were coming back with fire. And far above, stars watched silently, as a storm prepared to crash over an empire that had stood for too long. Because in a galaxy ruled by cruelty, one truth now echoed from system to system. You can chain a body, but not a soul that chooses to rise. The warship Rising Star hovered, like a blade in space, silent, sharp, and ready to strike. Inside, Princess Elira stood at the edge of the command deck, gazing out the viewing window. Her cybernetic legs glowed faint blue under her royal battle robes. They no longer felt foreign. They felt like her. Behind her stood Dane, the human who had started it all, the rebel who had broken laws, defied an empire, and gave her back her life. Below them, hidden on a red dwarf moon, was Facility Virex. And if the message was true, her mother was alive inside. The strike began before dawn. 3 shuttles descended fast and silent through the atmosphere. Inside them were not soldiers, but medics, engineers, exiles, and disabled warriors now reborn with Earth's tech. Many had once suffered under the Empire's laws. Now, they had returned, standing tall. The facility guards were caught off. Elira moved like lightning, her legs enhancing every step, her mind synced with her tech. She didn't kill, she disabled, she disarmed. She moved through steel doors like wind, and finally, deep underground, past broken code-locked gates, she found the prison chamber. Inside, chained to a stasis bed, was Queen Elira, her mother, still alive, still breathing. Eyes slowly opened. "Elira," the queen whispered, voice weak and cracked. Tears fell down Elira's face. "I'm here, mother. I'm not a little girl anymore." I stood up. She pressed a button, unlocking the chains. Her mother's hand reached out and touched her cheek. "You really walked here." Elira smiled even as her lips trembled. "And now we're walking out, together." By sunrise, the entire facility had fallen, but Elira didn't destroy it. She converted it. She called in her engineers and ordered the prison repurposed into a healing center. For anyone the Empire once abandoned, no more torture, no more secrets. This place would now be called Hope Station. Back on Velthar Prime, the Emperor watched in disbelief. His daughter had exposed him, his people no longer feared him, and his own council now debated removal. He sat alone in his dark throne room, while outside, the crowds chanted Elira's name. She didn't need a crown. She already had the galaxy's heart. 1 week later, Elira stood on a massive platform orbiting the twin planets of Heron 9. 1 million beings watched in person, billions more across holoscreens. The sky behind her shimmered with banners, not of war but of rebirth. She held a small device in her hand, the Spark Codex. She raised it high. "This," she said, "is no longer illegal." The crowd roared. "This is the future. A future where no child is left in silence. No woman chained, no body judged for being different." She turned and looked at Dane, then at her mother, now standing beside her. And this future began with a human, a man they called Lowborn. A man who didn't see a broken girl, only someone waiting to rise. The applause shook the heavens. Elira took a step forward, and then another, and then another. Each step echoed louder than any speech, because in that moment, every soul watching believed one thing. If she could walk, they could rise. That night, as the stars lit up like fireflies, Dane and Elira stood on the deck of Rising Star, watching a new spaceport being named, Elira's Reach. "Did you ever think we'd make it this far?" Dane asked softly. Elira smiled. "I didn't even think I'd make it across my room." They laughed, and then she turned serious. We're not done, Dane. There are still systems where girls are hidden, men are silenced, people are chained by fear. He nodded. Then we keep walking. She looked up at the stars, her voice steady. No, we lead.